Hello to mainly the members of the Disabled and Non-Disabled Alliance for today. My name is William White. I'm the nominal president, I guess. And today we are meeting with candidate Robert Gonzalez, running for Associated Student Incorporated at Sacramento State's, Vice President of Student Affairs, which is one of the core positions in the ASI, which has a say in the various decisions of the ASI on the main board. I'm a member of a couple of the contributory committees to the ASI. He's going to go for the thing. He's going to go for the big ticket item. So we're going to today have an interview with him. Basically, we're going to talk politics. We're going to ask what he's about. We're going to elaborate on the details of the campaign, I suppose, by necessity, because a lot of folks don't vote in these. And then we're going to basically run a poll that elicits whether or not we, the Disabled Non-Disabled Alliance, want to hand our endorsements over to candidate Robert Gonzalez. So when that happens, the poll is going to close relatively quickly because we need to have this finalized pretty soon. However, it's not going to, it's just going to be a short conversation. So please don't be intimidated by too much time, unless I ramble on for an hour and a half, which is possible. So okay, cool. Candidate Gonzalez, first and foremost, here's a question. Can I have a beer with you?
Well, once I turn the legal age, right?
Oh no.
And then we can discuss that. But I do want to say one quick thing is I'm running for vice president of academic affairs. I know you mentioned student affairs, but that's
Okay.
Dr. Ed Mills.
Academic affairs.
Yeah, academic affairs. Just
We'll
wanted
make that clear in the announcement ahead of this video.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. But and back to your question. Once I'm the legal age to do so, we can discuss that. I'm currently 19 years old. I'm a second year international relations major, and just like William was saying, is that yeah, I do. Similar to William, I serve on committees as well within ASI. I'm the current vice chairman of the Student Academic Senate. I'm on the Lobby Core Committee. I used to serve on the Green Team and the Academic Policies Committee as well. And but this semester, I am working as the vice chairman of the Student Academic Senate, as well as an ASI representative to the Police Advisory Council.
Nice. That certainly priors. So what are you, don't have a script here or anything. I heard about this just late last night. But let's see. What do you identify as, from your experience in ASI and in just as being a student for a couple of years, what do you identify as problems and issues within the university that need fixing, and what, to your understanding, can Associated Student Incorporated do about it if it so chose?
Right. Thank you for the question. So within my time as vice chairman of the Student Academic Senate, actually, fun fact, I've been in the Student Senate since freshman year of college, and I'm going on my third year. So I have a bit of experience there. And there are so many issues, and just, I can't name all of them, but I'll name a couple that are really outstanding to me. And number one is resources. There are so many resources that ASI provides to students, and students aren't taking advantage of them. There's a food pantry that gives free food to students who are facing food insecurity. And, even if you're not facing food insecurity, it is something that you can go to and save money. Just last week, I went to the food pantry and I saved $50 from going to the grocery store. And we all know how expensive groceries are getting this year. Number two is students are not being heard enough. Over the pandemic, when there was a big movement for professors wanted students to provide proof that they were sick during COVID-19 in order to miss class. And I was against that. And I thought that was unfair to students who were sick but did not go to the doctors, because you don't necessarily always need to go to the doctors when you have a cold or the sniffles or a minor cough. I know when I get sick with a mild cold, I don't always go to the doctors. I stay home, I drink a tea, and I relax. Right? And professors wanted you to have proof that you were sick. And so I fought against that, and successfully we did not let that go through. And so as the vice chairman, that is the kind of work I do. And so that is another issue that ASI can resolve with students. The third and final issue, and again, this is not to say that there's only 3 issues in the university, but just to, shorten the length of the issues is number 3 is student participation within ASI committees. I believe that Sac State together can move and continue to make Sac State number 1. And I believe that Sac State, if students come together, if faculty and professors come together, we can all make this university better for all of us. No matter your race, no matter your gender, no matter anything. And I believe that we can all change Sac State for the better.
The reference to Sac State as number 1, it was the most politician thing I've heard today. And granted, today just started, so maybe that's not saying much, but there you go. All right, thank you for that. Yeah, let me interrogate this the matter, not so much yourself, I suppose, but like the issue of the proposal to require students to prove via doctor's notes, I suppose, that they were sick in some way in order to have, I assume, excused absences. This was before I got involved, so I wouldn't know the details probably. But could you elaborate a bit more on like why you would have opposed that policy? We're looking, personally, I'm looking for if we land in the same place as far as the kind of problem that is. I think that would be interesting to find out. I could point you talk a little bit more, if you would, about like why you believe that to be a problematic proposal if it were to go forward.
So I believe that it was a first and foremost, this happened in the Academic Policies Committee. So if anyone is not aware, the Academic Policies Committee reviews syllabi, rules and policies, and we all know what a syllabus is, right? When we get into the class, there's a syllabus that we are expected to read before the class begins. And in that syllabus, if you haven't noticed already, there is a section on every syllabus that says class exceptions or class participation. And under that section, there is something, there's attendance, and attendance is important. And I'm not saying that students should not go to class. Students should go to class. But the problem was during COVID-19, a lot of students were missing class because they were sick with a cold, or they had COVID like myself, or they had the flu. During COVID-19, everything hit at once, right? Everything just hit at once, and it was a disaster, an economic crisis. There was a pandemic on top of that, and so it got very worrisome. But back to the question, the Academic Policies Committee does oversee that, and as an ASI representative to the Academic Policies Committee, I worked alongside with professors. And there were a couple professors who introduced a new attendance policy during COVID-19. They felt that students were missing class just because they did not want to attend class. We know it was easy to click on Zoom. I can be in Japan and I was able to do my class in Sacramento, right, from Zoom. So that's a good thing about being on Zoom. But professors at the time felt that students were missing class just because they wanted to miss class. And to me, I know that probably that was a little bit true. Maybe students were not just attending class for whatever reason, but they wanted students who missed class to show proof that they were sick. And I believe that, if I'm sick, and I'm not going to go to the doctors for a minor runny nose or something that I do not want to go to class for. And some professors wanted that to be mandatory. And part of the problem was I went to the ASI board and I was discussing and elaborating this. And I was like, hey, professors want to make it mandatory for students to bring a doctor's note. And I told them, what if they don't have a doctor's note? Because they don't go to the doctors, or they don't have health insurance, or they're not going to the doctors for a minor symptom. And they were like, you know what, this is right. And so I went back to the Academic Policies Committee. I plead my case and I told them, this is not fair to students. This is unacceptable. I do not agree with this. And shortly after, we held the vote, and that attendance policy was killed in the Academic Policies Committee.
Uh, yeah, what I think is interesting to like try and tease out is I guess a broader interpretation of it. And I'll spend just a second on this if I can, because we should go on to a different topic area just for brevity's sake. But what we've talked about sometimes in the Disabled Non-Disabled Alliance is that oftentimes administrative policy has the effect of placing an outsized burden on the person least able to bear it. So for disabled students, that becomes pretty clear pretty quickly. If you were to get student housing at the Hornet Commons, but you are a wheelchair user, I found this out a few different ways. One of them was asking the Hornet Commons. You would have to go through a number of forms and review processes, and then you'd have to pay for the renovations for your reasonable accommodations, which should have probably been embedded into the apartment to begin with, if in fact these were ADA compliant apartments, which they claim to be. All of that layer of bureaucracy and the requirement of payment, assuming I'm correct. I think I've heard this twice now, once from administration at the Hornet Commons. All of that has the effect of placing undue burden on, again, the person least able to bear it. I mean, if you're the student using a wheelchair, you can't use the stupid sinks. Like, what are you supposed to do for the days and days and days that it will take to make these changes happen? And you're probably statistically the least able party here to pay for it. So what's interesting about that is that it's the same kind of thing happens at many different stages, many different levels that disabled students encounter all the time. One of them is they're actually structurally identical with these kind of the proposal that was put forward via the professor's syllabi. Right. By the way, thank you for getting syllabus right. I don't see that very often. Or rather, we don't see with other Latin words. Anyway, so yeah, the disabled students all the time encounter like the problem of having to prove that they have a disability, that they are, worthy of reasonable accommodations, rather than simply encountering a situation that accommodates them natively, like a classroom setting that just isn't hostilely designed. And we see that all the time. So I'm wondering, I guess, what you think about that generally. If you probably, like, I come away with kind of a nuanced take that like some of that is maybe but I'm wondering like whether and how and to what extent you want to redress that more general issue that students face. I realize that there are demands on your time and resources apart from this. This is a much bigger project than any of us. But what do you want to do to work on that? Because that's a topic area that's very important to disabled students, and especially in the Dana.
Yeah, and I really want to say thank you, William, for that question. And actually a little bit of backstory about myself. And the reason why I am appealing to Dana is because my uncle himself is disabled. He's currently on a wheelchair as well. And my dad's uncle, sorry. And he served in the Vietnam War. And he also, he lost two of his legs, his left leg and his right leg. And so he is currently on a wheelchair. And you are right that it is concerning for disabled and non-disabled students as well, who are currently facing this, not only at the Hornet Commons, but at the dormitories too on campus. And so it is a bureaucratic issue, but ASI, the role that we can play is advocating on a higher level for students who are not able to have access to the same thing that some other student does. And so one of the things that I do want to talk about is, serving in ASI, my position as Vice President of Academic Affairs is to oversee many committees. One of those committees is a system-wide committee on campus that is the Faculty Senate Committee. And in that committee, what we can do is introduce a call to action to make apartments like the Hornet Commons, to make the dormitories and many other campus apartments that are connected to Sac State ADA compliant. Because I'm sure you all know that once, they say, oh yeah, we're ADA compliant, people are all welcomed here, but then you get there and you're like, well, I can't even access this, right? I can't even, get to the sink. I need help to, like the showers as well. How is someone in the wheelchair supposed to take a shower? I know for sure. I'm in the Hornet Commons right now. My shower is not ADA compliant, and so that is that is going to affect the student's ability to do something as basic as take a shower. And so I think that really needs to be handled. And for my plan is I would go to the Faculty Senate Committee and also the ASI Board of Directors. I am appealing to Dana as someone that you guys can reach out to me. You all can reach out to me, not only as a candidate, but I'm also a student. I also experience things that we all experience, such as the high rise in the rise in rent, the rise in tuition and fees, et cetera, et cetera. And so with Dana, whether you endorse me or not, I do believe that just feel that, I want you all to feel that you guys can always reach out to me whenever you want, and whatever you need help with, I am here for you as a voice for you on the ASI Board of Directors.
I see. So it's our man on the inside. I assume. I've been going by presentation. Anyway, I'll ask one more question, and then we'll close out. I'll turn the mic over to you to make like a final statement, then we'll be over. More basically on the sort of individual human, I guess, I don't know, where humans level, why politics? Why did you come to Sacramento State University, I assume right out of high school or close to it, and immediately start getting involved in like student politics? What is driving you behind this?
Thank you again for the question. These are all good questions, by the way. And my plan was to never go into politics, honestly. My plan was to graduate high school, and I actually wanted to go to college to study. I want to be an actor. I know you don't have to go to college to be an actor, but I want to be an actor or do some type of or attend law school somehow, or some way. I was very like undecided on my plan after high school, and so I knew that I wanted to go to college, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to study. So I was actually, when I entered Sac State, let me backtrack a little bit. I live 6 hours and a half away from Sacramento State. And so I'm here in Sac State now. I'm living in the Hornet Commons actually, but I'm actually 6 hours and a half away. And I chose Sac State because I was like, you know what? It's the capital. They have a really good theater program. And if I wanted to go on a law school route, the capital was a good way to make connections. And so that's the reason why I applied and got accepted to Sac State. However, I started joining ASI committees. And the reason why I joined ASI committees is because I just wanted to get a sense of what was, how Sac State government was, right? In high school, I was part of student government there as well. I was elected as the chairman of the California Scholarship Federation. And there I met with Governor Gavin Newsom to talk about how we can get scholarships funding to my high school and how we can get community service credit to my high school as well. But that's a whole other story that I'm willing to speak on about as well. But back to your question, when I first joined ASI committees, there's something that's called a public discussion board where students can come in the committees and they could plead their case. They talk about what's going on at Sac State, what they need, what they want, any problems they're facing. And I just found that there were a lot of issues that aren't currently being addressed, such as, especially during the pandemic, students came in and they were talking about why they were paying the full tuition price for being online and the campus was closed. I believe that should have been cut by half, almost by half at least, because there was, it's just not fair for students to pay a full tuition price for Zoom University, right? And as much as I love the professors here at Sac State, I think it was outrageous for students to be paying almost $4,000 in tuition and fees just to log onto a computer on Zoom, right? Um, Other issues include uh, graduation rates. Graduation rate here at Sac State is high. It's around 80%, something around there. And that's a really good number, but I want to improve those rates. And that's something that I have been doing on the Student Academic Senate, which is trying to find a plan to improve our graduation rates. And many other issues. A last issue that I'll briefly talk about is access to campus, right? Many students don't have a car. Many students don't want to walk 3 miles every day to get to campus. So I believe that transportation is also a key. Transportation that is clean and renewable energy transportation that we don't have to depend on fossil fuels for. And I think that we should also have a transportation system at Sac State, which can get students quick and easy to campus and back home, or at least close to home, where they could study and do their homework at.
Nice.
I have a quick question before we close out. I noticed that you were using past tense when talking about the COVID situation. Can I ask if that was intentional?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. When I was talking about COVID past tense, I was talking about issues. I was mentioning issues that were happening when COVID was really bad. And I know COVID is still around. Yes, it's, COVID numbers are decreasing, but nonetheless, COVID-19 is still in effect, right? We can still get COVID-19. So I would encourage you to wear your mask in outdoor, even though the mask mandate is ended. I still do my due diligence and I wear my mask. I'm fully vaccinated and boosted. But I do, yeah, I'm sorry about that, Rianne.
It's okay, just asking for clarification there. I
yeah,
do want to point out that the numbers being down is likely more due to bureaucratic reasons than the actual infection rates. So keep that in mind.
right. And I yeah, right. And exactly. And for Sac State, there was a big movement. I'm not sure if you all were aware of it, but there was a big movement just about 4 weeks ago, almost a month ago, for Sac State to end the mask mandate. And I was like, well, at that time, there was still like 50 cases every single day at Sac State. That includes students and faculty and professors, right? And I was like, well, I don't think that's a good idea to be. I was not in a position of, I was not the vice chairman yet at that time. And so I was like, well, you know what? I'm not in a position of power to be telling, President Nelson, like, hey, you can't do this or you can't do that, and stuff like that. But that is an issue still. COVID-19 is still a thing on campus. And you're right, it is a bureaucratic issue. Some people want to lower the numbers purposely so that they can have better reelection rates. And I'm sure William knows about this. You're very educated on politics as well. We all know how the game works, and at times it could be awful.
Rational self-interest, they say. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'll mention as well that I like the vaccination numbers that I see from Sacramento State. I think the mandate on that front probably helped, but you do wind up having to sort of make people do the wise thing in those cases. And that's you can do that better or worse, but I think Sac State's done it reasonably well. And I'm hoping that we get to the point where we can call COVID-19 and its variants, as I think they become more transmissible but less severe. Well, it'll become like, I don't know, the new herpes. Like everyone's got it, nobody cares. Hopefully, I don't know. That's not me being like an epidemiologist or anything.
Right, but my hope is that I can keep on using COVID-19 as a past tense. I want to talk about it in the future. In the future saying that this happened a long time ago. I don't want to keep on, talking about it going forward.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that's everything that I've got for you just at the moment. I'm sure that you had like talking points you wanted to make sure got across. I'm hoping you got the chance to embed some of those in here. But do you want to make any sort of final remarks to the Disabled Not Disabled Alliance and to the student body in general. This is a video that's we're gonna, we'll probably just put it on the Dana's YouTube channel. So yeah, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just, I'll take no more than the next 5 minutes or so. I just wanted to say, a lot of people see student government or ASI just as student government, I'm running for a student government position, but I'm also a student here. And I've mentioned this before when William was asking me questions, and I'm a student. And a little bit about my experience on campus is I was an academic peer mentor. I was working as an academic peer mentor my sophomore year at Sac State, which was not too long ago. And within, while working as an academic peer mentor, I noticed that registration was a key issue. And I actually met Brian as an academic peer mentor. We worked together as a academic peer mentor, and I think he's a treasurer for the Dana Club, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And so, we work together as an academic peer mentor. He knows the struggles that students also went through with registration. And one of my main policies as a candidate for ASI is to make registration accessible to all students. And what I mean by accessible is not only having access to, but understanding how to register for classes. A lot of students, one of the main reasons why they don't graduate is because they are not taking the correct classes. It's not that they are failing their classes, it's that they're taking classes that they do not need to take, And so I really cannot stress it enough, but I would recommend students to meet with an advisor before you register for classes so that you can have a good academic plan and a pathway to graduate on time. And that's just a little bit about my registration platform. I also have a platform that is listening to students. I serve as the vice chairman of the Student Academic Senate, as well as the ASI representative to the Police Advisory Council. And I believe that student voices matter. Student voices are the most powerful weapon that we as students have, along with our votes. And so I believe that students should attend these committee meetings. And a lot of students don't know, but these committee meetings are open to the public, and students can come to talk about anything. If you want to, on Tuesday next week, you can attend a committee meeting and talk about what you had for dinner. You can talk about anything, and that's really the charm of these committee meetings. And so I also believe that we need to support a quality education for all students. And what I mean by quality education is an education that students are not just attending college to get their degree, because at the end of the day, our degree is just a piece of paper, but no one sees the hard work that we put behind that degree, whether it's staying up 12 hours a day to study for your next exam, whether it's drinking 4 cups of coffee, whether it's skipping a meal to study for your exam. No one sees that behind the scenes effort that students put into their degree. I also want to advocate for more internships for students here at Sac State, and especially for disabled students. And exactly like what Brian said, Brian, something that really motivated me to want to help members of the Disabled and Non-Disabled Alliance is that Brian told me a really good, Brian was talking to me about last year, is that he wants to become a recreational manager for the city of Sacramento. And I think that's a good plan, right? But he said there's not that many internships that are ADA compliant. There's not that many internships that, provide transportation for those who are disabled. And I believe that every student matters, and we should, no matter the career field that anyone wants to get into, you should be able to get into it with no problem. And I believe that is part of my quality education plan. And I promise not to take up too much of your time. I will, talk to William and the other officers if I can send them a link to go to my website, and you can read my policies in depth. They're not that lengthy, maybe a paragraph or two for each policy that I have. But I do want to say that whether you decide to endorse me or vote for me, no matter what, next week on Wednesday and Thursday, April 6th and 7th, please go on the ASI website and make your voice count. every voice matters. And, just a quick example, last year, a candidate for my position only won by around 20 votes. And I believe that, every voice does count. And I just cannot stress that enough. And so I do want to say, again, whether you decide to vote for me or another candidate, just please go out and vote April 6th and 7th next week. Thank you.
Thank you. One last quick question, sorry. How do we join these committee meetings? Like, is there a link on the ASI website or?
Right, there's a whole ASI student government website on the ASI website. That's a lot of ASI. So there's a general ASI website, right? And there's 6 departments. One of those departments is the ASI student government. You would click on ASI student government, and under there, there's many tabs. There's one tab that says committees. You can click it and you can see where the committee is, what time the committee meets, and where they meet. If you would like, Rianne, I can send you a link as well.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll say to the viewer, check out the video description here for more outside resources that'll be linked to. The Discord is going to have a link to the poll. The description on the video is going to have a link to ASI's website and other affiliated things. So, okay, cool. I think that's all that we've got for you. I appreciate your thoughts and your reaching out to us for endorsement. Yeah, we will work out the details in the actual announcement and the polling and stuff after this is out. And then we hopefully you will work for the interests of the students, I suppose. I didn't even have a good outro planned. So here I'm just gonna cut it off, put myself out of my misery, and say that thank you to the viewer for entertaining us for the time being. And hopefully, yeah, I'll parrot that endorsement of the voting process, just to the extent this is a democracy, and by way of bureaucratic norms, that it is kind of a democracy, but only if you go out of your way to make it happen. Please vote here and in general. All right.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for having me.
# where's the ramp?